As the season enters its most decisive phase, both on and off the field, the NFL's coaching carousel is spinning at full speed, even with the expectation that John Harbaugh will finalize his deal with the New York Giants. Currently, there are still 8 vacant head coach positions open across the entire league. And even amid the intense divisional round games and very tight schedules, both current coordinators and experienced former head coaches continue to attract exceptionally strong interest from teams. To understand who the hottest names on the market are, the behind the scenes of the negotiations, and how these decisions could impact the future of the franchise, we now talk with NFL insider Jeremiah Foley.
Insider Jeremy Fowler, because we still have 8 head coaching vacancies remaining, assuming that John Harbaugh gets that deal done with the Giants. Adam Schefter will have much more on that at the top of the hour on Countdown. But we have some coordinators involved in this divisional round, some hot names out there. You just heard him lauding Sean Payton. Let's start with his staff there.
His defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, a prime head coaching candidate. He had 6 virtual interviews with teams last week. I actually spoke with him last night. He said, head coaching is the last thing on my mind right now because we're trying to get this win against the Bills, but he wants to be a head coach again. The Ravens, the Raiders are a few teams where his interview process went well. Could be a second interview in line. And Davis Webb is the pass game coordinator for the Broncos. He's the name to watch. He also interviewed for those 2 teams. He could go with Joseph to be his offensive coordinator, or he could become a head coach candidate in his own right. So that is certainly a name to watch coming out of that game. And then with San Francisco, Robert Saleh did a few interviews with teams before the game tonight. He'll do a few more tomorrow. Baltimore Ravens are one to watch for him. Tennessee Titans, he could be a finalist when they start to narrow down their list. They've talked to 18 candidates. Leading up to Sunday, they'll narrow that to 4 or 5. It wouldn't shock if Saleh is on that list as well. So those are 2 former head coaches that are getting some looks. That's been the theme this cycle, is those retreads who are looking for a second chance. Joseph, Saleh could get one.
Saleh, 20-36 as head coach of the Jets, has done a remarkable job with all those injuries on defense for the Niners. It's been nice to see. Jeremy, thanks. And there was this big announcement, obviously, midweek. John Harbaugh is going to the Giants. And the first thing you wonder is, well, they have an incumbent GM, Joe Schoen. How is all that going to work out? They still don't have a contract. Obviously, the devil's in the details here. So what's going on?
Well, Hannah, every word matters, right? So when we reported this on Wednesday night, the language on that was expected to finalize a deal. That still is true some 72 hours later. The Giants and John Harbaugh both still expect to finalize a deal. And they don't feel particularly rushed now because there are games today, games tomorrow, and then there's a national holiday on Monday, and both sides were hoping to have a press conference on Tuesday to introduce John Harbaugh as the next head coach of the New York Giants. But on the way to trying to finalize that contract, there have been some hang-ups over structure within the organization and how certain things would play out. And I will say that my phone yesterday rang with a number of phone calls from very wise people across the league who all had a similar reaction of surprise and disbelief that this deal was not done and wondering why it still isn't done. And the fact that it's not done some 72 hours after maybe it was expected to be has raised a lot of questions around the league about whether it will get done. Now, again, I want to be very clear. The Giants and John Harbaugh both expect that they're going to get the deal done. But it's not done, and there are people wondering why.
I mean, Harbaugh had direct personnel discussions with Ozzie Newsome, with Eric DeCosta as they built this team. Is that part of the sticking point here? Is Harbaugh's, I guess, dictating personnel decisions?
Well, I think there are a lot of questions within the Giants organization with ownership, with the general manager, Joe Schoen. I think John Harbaugh wants to make sure that it's spelled out exactly how he would like it to be, with him being the belle of the ball and him having the option to go to any number of places and him initially opting to go to New York to work with the Giants. I think he would like the organization to be structured the way he wants. And again, so far that doesn't seem to be the case. The money is not an issue. There is agreement on the money. There is agreement on the length of the deal. There's even agreement that he would take the deal. He told the Giants he was taking the job. But they have not been able to get done the contract, and they will continue to try to spend today, tomorrow, Monday until they get it done so that they can introduce him Tuesday at a press conference in New York, unless, of course, all of a sudden John Harbaugh writes on a piece of paper that he's resigning as the HC of the NYG. We'll see if that can happen, too.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no. Having a flashback here. Adam Schefter, thanks. It's really interesting. Listen, he got a lot of resources there in Baltimore, so we'll see if he gets the situation he wants to across the board walking into New York. Thanks, my friend. We'll see you on Countdown.
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, thank you.
Because with John Harbaugh off the board, as soon as he gets his deal done with the New York Giants, Stefanski was considered a prime option there. He will be a prime option most likely in some other places, including Atlanta with the Falcons. There's some buzz about a potential link there. All these teams need to go through their processes with second interviews, but I do expect Stefanski, former coach of the year, to be in on that circuit. And he also had some other, I guess you would call them retreads, second-time head coaches, trying to be head coaches again. Robert Saleh. He could be an option in multiple spots, but you see Vance Joseph there too. These guys are trying to play their games this weekend. They're not worried about head coaching interviews right now, but Robert Saleh could be an option with Baltimore. He's expected to talk with them. Las Vegas Raiders could be some options there. Tennessee Titans, Vance Joseph in that similar mix. Those strong-minded defensive coaches, second time around, they've learned some things. They're hoping to get jobs.
Keep in mind, the Ravens are in their first head coaching search since 2008. Jeremy, thank you so much. For much more on the playoffs, let's go to Tony and Mike, PTI's bonus segment.
Having a deal to become the next head coach of the Giants. However, there's still no official announcement. Other dominoes haven't fallen, with that one still unresolved. 25% of the league's teams are without a head coach. Back here with Jeremy Fowler. And Jeremy, what can you tell us about Harbaugh's contract status and any other openings and where they are today?
Still finalizing, but not an agreement officially reached. That's not a major concern from all that I've heard today. They're still working out some of the details of the contract. Most people around the league expect this to be like a 5-year deal, a very lucrative 5-year deal. John Harbaugh expected to be one of the highest paid coaches when this is all said and done based on his pedigree and the Giants' chase of him really over the last week. He did a ton of research. The Giants won out. He loved the combination of Jackson Dart, the roster they have, the tradition of the Giants. So that has not changed. I don't expect Tennessee or any other team to sneak in here and take Harbaugh away. They're still going to have a press conference early next week. But for now, a contract could get done today, just not officially signed at this point. Maybe he forgot the DocuSign.
Maybe he forgot the DocuSign. I know Giants fans, they can't wait for this to become official. Jeremy Fowler with the latest. Thanks so much.
I'll spend most of Wednesday at the Giants facility. The Super Bowl head coach believed to be close to a deal. He has talked to the Falcons and was planning to meet the Titans. That is not happening. For much more, senior NFL insider Adam Schefter joins us now. Schefty, what's the latest with Harbaugh and the Giants as they look to finalize this contract?
Yeah. Kevin, this deal is going to get done. John Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. I think when you have certain amount of money owed to you from the Baltimore Ravens, you're finalizing contract details and numbers from your new employer, the New York Giants. There's a lot of paperwork to sift through, a lot of details to work out, but that's not going to stop the New York Giants from hiring the man that many teams wanted and the man that was the belle of the ball in this hiring cycle. The Giants have a successor to follow along the lines of Bill Parcells and Dan Reeves and Tom Coughlin, and the man that they believe can elevate this franchise in much the same way that Mike Vrabel elevated the Patriots this year or Ben Johnson elevated the Chicago Bears. The Giants identified John Harbaugh as the coach they wanted. They went out, they pursued him as aggressively, if not more so than any other team, and they're going to make that deal happen.
All right, with a Harbaugh deal pending in New York, there are 8 remaining head coach openings. 3 are in the AFC North, as the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns all looking for a new head man. As we take a look here at 1 spot filled, 8 to go in the coaching carousel. Schefty, what's the next head coach domino you expect to fall?
Well, I think a name that's drawing a lot of interest out there right now is Kevin Stefanski, the former head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He's interviewed with the Dolphins. He's interviewed the Falcons. He's interviewed the Titans. He's interviewed the Baltimore Ravens. There have been a bunch of teams that Kevin Stefanski has spoken to. What's interesting about this cycle, Kevin, is that there also are a number of teams with offensive coordinator openings that are highly appealing. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Detroit Lions, the the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so there are going to be teams out there vying for candidates like Kevin Stefanski that have offensive coordinator jobs that might just be as attractive as some of the head coaching jobs. And so I know there are 8 teams looking to fill their openings right now at head coach, but there might be more in the sense that they're...
With 13 wins, football analyst Louis Riddick is with us now this morning. So let's start, Louis. Bills, Broncos, what's the matchup that you're eyeing in that one?
Well, I think obviously this is all about Josh Allen. This is really his moment to really kind of cement his, well, I don't want to say cement his legacy because obviously they want to get to the Super Bowl first and foremost. But considering all the things he's working against, the report just now about the fact that no Gabe Davis, no Tyrell Shavers going up against this defense that really sports the third best pass rush win rate. They're going to absolutely harass you when it comes time for you to throw the football. And they give up less than 3.9 yards per rush on the ground. And Buffalo has been a football team that's one of the very best at running the football on the ground. So they're up against it, whether it's putting the ball in the air and trying to produce explosives, Randy, or really when it comes down to James Cook trying to run the football. So that means this. As Vance Joseph mentioned, it's those second reaction explosives, meaning when the play goes off script, that's where Josh is going to be at his best. And he's up against it. He's working with a short week. They're traveling once again on the road out there in Denver in altitude. There's a lot of things that are working against him. But look, this is a guy who has kind of risen to the challenge time and time again. And he, along with, remember this name, the name Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator there in Buffalo, they're going to have to be at their very best to keep this raucous Denver defense and that crowd, kind of tamed as this game goes along. Because this is the kind of game that can get out of hand, especially when you're talking about a defense that can pressure you in all the different ways that Denver's defense can.
Yeah, let's go over to Niners Seahawks, the third time these two teams will be meeting this season. So, Louis, what matchup will you be watching in that game?
Yeah, really, this is about the coaches, the play callers. I mean, both head coaches are the primary play callers on their particular side of the ball that they have kind of risen through the ranks on. Kyle Shanahan on offense versus Mike McDonald, the Seattle Seahawks head coach on defense. Look, Kyle's one of the very, very best as far as taking whatever he has at his disposal and being able to still create explosive plays in one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. They were number 4, I believe, in the NFL, producing plus 10-yard explosives this year. And Brock Purdy is a guy who's not afraid to push the ball down the field. On the other hand, though, Mike McDonald and this Seattle defense, they're number 1 in the NFL at preventing 10-yard explosives. So you're going to have to earn every single thing that you get against this football team. And when you're talking about injuries, what team has been more beat up than the San Francisco 49ers? There hasn't been one in the NFL that has dealt with a laundry list of injuries like this football team has. But these are two of my favorite coaches to watch because they're just so disciplined and they're so innovative in the way in which they attack on their respective sides of the ball. This is a great matchup. Do not count San Francisco out. Kyle's one of the very best. This will be must-see TV.
Yeah, the Niners and Seahawks, they split that series this season. We'll see who gets the win when it matters most at this point in the season. Louis Riddick with the latest. Thanks so much, Louis.
What is clear at this moment is that the NFL is going through a cycle marked by patience, strategy, and second chances. With names like Vince Jokic and Roberto Sales gaining traction again, and with the situation involving John Hammond still raising questions throughout the league, every detail matters, from organizational structure to decision-making power, while the games themselves continue to determine fates on the field. The field, the behind-the-scenes action remains as intense as ever. And as Jeremias Fallon pointed out, the next few days should be decisive for this dominance to finally start to fall.